Hello, everyone. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live called New Frontiers in AI, ML, and Radiology. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Jan Bager from GE Healthcare. Jan and I worked together for many years there. I'm at a company called InterSystems now, but I consider you, Jan, one of the most interesting and informative AI ML kind of posters on the internet, and I love reading your stuff, and I learn a lot, and I'm looking forward to this discussion to learn even more. So welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks a lot for having me, Don. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. So what I wanted to focus on, I guess, for this interview is to just dive into RSNA, which happened a couple months ago, and I'm sure that's a lot of things were launched and talked about, and that kind of thing in AI. And I thought it'd be good to just hear all about it, and for our audience to hear all about that. But maybe just before we get there, can you level set me and everybody on kind of AI and radiology, even before RSNA, like maybe go back to last summer, because I think AI has been relatively successful in radiology for years, and maybe for folks not familiar with AI and radiology, maybe we could start there, and then we could go into the RSNA show.
Totally makes sense, Don. Absolutely. I mean, look, and maybe we zoom out even further and just start with the fact that AI's impact, in healthcare overall has been relatively modest, right? And as you mentioned, we have seen some really interesting developments in areas such as radiology, but also biopharma and a handful of health-specific admin systems, actually.
Yes.
And if we go back a couple of years, and I actually do not know if you remember, but the first AI algorithm was cleared by the FDA in 1995. And fewer than 50 algorithms were approved over the 18 years thereafter.
Yeah.
Right. So quite a lot of time where
not much has happened. What was that first algorithm? Not to disrupt your flow there.
That's a good question. I need to check, but I just remember it was 1995.
Wow, I didn't realize actually it was that long ago.
Yeah. It's quite a long time ago. And I mean, look, when we look back recent years, the number has increased rapidly. In the past decade, for instance, we have seen a lot of clearances, and especially between 2019 and 2022, there were more than 300 apps that have been approved just within 4 years.
Yeah.
And one thing here is important, right? And this is also the reason why radiology is really at the forefront. It's all about this image recognition, right? Which was a key breakthrough some time ago, really transforming the domain of radiology. And AI is particularly, let's say, suited for radiology because on one hand side, medical images contain a huge amount of data, and AI also started outperforming humans in image recognition almost a decade ago. So this is really the fundamental reason why radiology is at the forefront of AI innovation, but also of AI adoption in healthcare. And if I may, this is actually also reflected in a recently published list by the FDA about AI and machine learning enabled medical devices marketed in the US. It actually highlights a year-over-year increase in FDA clearances and the domination of radiology, with more than, I think, 75% of devices authorized in 2023 being within this clinical domain. Yeah.
Right.
So, and if I'm not mistaken, this FDA database now shows close to, I think, 700 clearances. A bit more than 500 of them are in the radiology space.
Yeah.
I think between 70 and 100 are in cardiology, which is following after.
Yeah.
And look, one thing is important, especially when I talk about AI in healthcare and FDA in that context. Given that healthcare is an industry where decisions can literally be a matter of life and death, but the importance of effective regulation can really not be overstated.
Yeah, of course. And do you think have the regulators kind of figured out how to regulate it well? I know early on, at least, and in other areas of healthcare, they're sort of trying to figure out how they might look at it. I imagine in radiology and cardiology, they sort of have the process down to some extent. Yeah.
Look, we can talk about this a bit later. Yes. So the process is there for the AI that exists today, right? This narrow, like point solutions, unimodal. Here we have a established, let's say, regulatory process. But when we talk a bit about, let's say, the next gen AI that is very, let's say, relevant the last couple of months, I mean, there the picture looks different. But look, Don, one more thing to write the broader picture of AI in radiology. Even if I say radiology is at the forefront, it's also true that we have not seen like a widespread adoption, right? We have not achieved this, even in radiology, neither in Europe, right, where some countries like, I don't know, the Netherlands and France are ahead of the curve, nor in the US, right? We have seen broad scale adoption, but it's increasing, right, slowly, and I think making some good progress. And actually, yesterday I posted about a paper of the New England AI Journal about the adoption of medical AI devices in the US. So if you want to have a look, I think it's a quite interesting read.
How would you, just real quick though, how would you characterize adoption? Like, is it, I don't know, 10% of radiologists use it, or 20%, or is there some simple way to think about it?
I'm just guessing here, right? But I feel like when I look into, I mean, we have to differentiate. When you look into like the top tier academic institutions, right? Maybe adoption is a bit broader. When you look into like the mid segment, private segment, it's different. But on average, to be honest, if you ask me, I feel like it's maybe between 5 and 10%, maybe 15 in some areas, but not more.
I see. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's jump to RSNA. So I remember from my GE Healthcare days that show is where you announce kind of your big advancements. So I assume every kind of company did that, and there were new vendors in the space. What were the things that sort of struck you as you attended the show and walked around?
I mean, first of all, you're right. It's all about new technologies, new products, right? But it's also about meeting people, meeting great friends, colleagues, new partners, potential new customers, and it's always a gathering of a small community, right? Even if it's a global, let's say, radiology domain, it's still a small group of people, and it's great to see that it's not me getting older each and every year. Look, one indicator I've seen a lot this year in Chicago at RSNA is the fact that we see AI in radiology more and more arriving, and one, let's say, factor to this is also that there are more and more conversations, but also solutions around validation and monitoring of AI solutions, right? Something that is very important when it runs in real clinical settings. You need to monitor, let's say, the operations, make sure the model does not decrease in performance over time. Right. So this is something that has really started, something we have not spoke about a couple of years back. But again, evaluation or validation and monitoring becomes really relevant, and all those vendors need to have an approach to this.
Yeah. Is there a group of vendors that focus on that, or is it the existing vendors are now moving their solutions to make sure ongoing validation monitoring is part of those solutions?
Yeah, I think it's the latter, right? Okay. So all those vendors that are already, let's say, have a standing in radiology AI, they now need to not just think about building the next algorithm, they also need to think about, hey, how do we deal with like the monitoring point of view?
Okay.
And I mean, what we also have, and this is maybe for another conversation at a later stage, but there are also a lot of companies out there that provide solutions to orchestrate AI within a radiology reporting workflow, right? Making sure that as a hospital, as a radiologist, I don't have to deal with tens or even hundreds of different small AI vendors, right? They offer like a marketplace or something like this. And those vendors also now more and more look into like monitoring of performance in those real life settings.
Great.
Look, and another thing I just sensed a few weeks back in Chicago is the fact that it is not much more about, right, offering point solutions, right, like detecting lung nodules, right? I mean, this is great, this works very well, but the question is how much value is in there. And what we see is now like a convergence or a trend towards like broader AI support for clinical pathways. So instead of like viewing AI as a product itself, AI is increasingly perceived as a facilitator of improved care delivery, actually.
Yeah. So basically, there's kind of bundles of solution around a particular care area, in a sense, versus like you say, a lung nodule on an X-ray.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. Interesting.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's cool. Really about, right, how can AI influence the patient journey, right? Or the healthcare system's cost or quality. For example, by reducing like length of stay, or by enabling appropriate procedures, have the potential to tap into much, I think, larger also financial benefits.
Interesting.
So those are maybe the two things, right? Coming back to RSNA, which are really new. Beside, right? I think we talk about this now. Beside this exciting space of generative AI.
Yeah, let's go to generative AI. So from my perspective, and you've reflected this, there are a couple areas in healthcare like radiology and drug discovery where I think AI has worked, and other areas where it hasn't yet. We haven't found that secret sauce. But now I think with generative AI, there's a lot of enthusiasm on everybody's part, the two of us included, I'm sure, as to how this might have an impact in all these other areas. But for AI, for radiology, I assume it also has an impact. So maybe you could kind of educate us on where Gen AI kind of fits into the radiology world from your point of view. And you can go broader than radiology if you wish.
Yeah. No, great. I mean, look, Don, first of all, I have to say that right now, days don't have enough hours. I mean, there's so much exciting things and development happening. You cannot keep up with reading what's going on. It's so exciting. I mean,
that's true.
My sleep is very short the last couple of months and weeks. But look, coming back to,
we have to stay current with Gen AI.
Oh yeah. Try to keep up. Look, coming back to radiology. Honestly, I personally believe radiologists, but also like other personnel, like radiology technologists, will be incredibly well served by AI in the next decade. So about Gen AI, actually, really, the influence of this new generation of AI technologies was really palpable in almost every encounter at RSNA. What I see is Gen AI significantly widens like the interest and expectations in AI within the radiology community. Look, so far the primary driver for new products and companies in this space came from, right, what we talked about already, like image analysis or processing tools. But this year, conversations about future opportunities centered really around large language models and foundation model capabilities.
Right. Yeah.
So if I may, let me talk a little bit about this and maybe also share a couple of examples here. So the interesting thing is that generative AI excels at analyzing both, right, structured and unstructured data, really, I think, unlocking valuable insights. And think about streamlining workflows such as, in radiology, automatic report generation. And let me share maybe a couple of examples here. For instance, let's think about automating or automated impressions, extracting relevant summarized information from previous radiology reports, which could significantly like simplify the integration of AI-generated results within the radiologist's assessment. Or think about navigating imaging interpretation seamlessly through just voice commands, right? Through your natural language, which could really enhance efficiencies and reduce turnaround times. Or things like automatically prioritizing cases based on importance. Or one of the most interesting use cases for me, summarizing reports in layman terms for the patient.
Right. Yeah.
So there are plenty of great use cases. When I think about more the research side of things, I mean, think about to ask your system in natural language to select a specific patient population, for your research purpose, or medical coding, right? Streamlining coding processes, reducing errors. So this is truly interesting use cases. But there is one more thing. What I mentioned so far is pretty much focusing on, and it feels like to me like there are currently like two worldviews when we talk about Gen AI. One is all about text, right, or voice and summarization of text and so on. And the second one, which is eventually even more exciting, is what I would call multimodal. So let me talk about this a little bit, if I may. Right today, when we talk about AI products, we talk about what is called narrow AI. Like point solutions, right? I mentioned this example earlier, detection of lung nodules in radiology images. And those solutions are unimodal, right? They use like one data modality, and then the AI does the magic, the inferencing happens, right? And you get a result. While there have been like exciting advancements in medical AI, I mean, many of those like current discriminative models are specialized for, as I said, right, very specific tasks and need a lot of like carefully prepared and high quality data to learn from. I mean, other examples are diagnosis of brain tumors, stroke assessment, fracture detection, and so on and so forth. The one important thing here is that, right, and we know this very well, medicine is inherently multimodal, right? So a doctor, a radiologist, for instance, when they read a case, they don't just view the image or read the image, right? They take into account contextual information, maybe the latest lab results, maybe information from the patient history, and so on and so forth. And what Gen AI, right, or what I would better call foundation models will enable is they will open the door to multimodal or artificial intelligence.
Right. And are we already there? Did you see some solutions that really sort of combine, I don't know, all the prior radiology reports or an EMR summary with the images to do a better job, from a diagnostic confidence point of view, or those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think it's all what we have seen, right? It's all like early stage prototypes, right? Everything in development, right? Because one thing is important to mention as well. I talked about FDA, I talked about clearance and approvals. So far, there's no clear pathway to approve generative AI solutions in healthcare, right? This is something we are waiting for, right? Regulatory bodies such as the FDA are working on this, but I think it still will need some time. I mean, technology-wise, Don, there is huge potential, right? We have seen prototypes where the, let's say, radiology reading workflow is completely rethought, where really Gen AI takes information from previous reports, prior reports of the patient, summarizes it in a natural way and in a useful way, in a contextual way, puts it into the current report, takes measurements from the images automatically, and all with hyperlinks. So when you click on a specific part of the text, it brings you back to the previous report and so on. So, I mean, it's a great way to work differently in reporting going forward.
I think you're very, very right. That there's a lot of pure text use cases that are opened up with large language models, like you say, summarizing past reports or writing, interpretation that's readable by the patient or those sorts of things. But this combination, that'll be kind of almost a next breakthrough, to really be able to put two and two together in AI models. Just seems like it has enormous benefit.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And there's one more benefit here. And this is the what I call foundation. And maybe I have to clarify this term first of all. Foundation models are, right, when I think about Gen AI or large language models and foundation models is the product concept, right? That refers to models that serve as a base for like multiple downstream tasks. And they are usually pre-trained on a large corpus of data and can be like fine-tuned for specific tasks. And what they very likely will also enable us is to speed up AI product development and commercialization. So let me give you an example on this. And let's imagine we have, the two of us, we have developed a like deep learning algorithm that segments structures from neurological MRI images. Yeah. So to do this, we need like thousands or tens of thousands of images to build our model, and go through all the steps until commercial readiness. And let's assume it takes us like 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. And eventually half of this 2 years we have spent on curating images, right?
Yeah.
Cleaning the data, getting to proper data. And then the second half we spent on like training the model, deploying the model, validating the model, go through regulatory clearance and so on and so forth. So we have done this, right? This model is out. Our Don's and Jan's first model is out. We learned a lot throughout the 2 years, and even with some like optimization and improvements, just taking what we have learned for this, let's say, brain model, now go to the next anatomy, still requires us to start from scratch, right? Because again, we need to start collecting the data and so on and so forth. So the potential we have with foundation models is that we could basically take all acquired healthcare data to learn, right, and put it into a foundation model to learn the overall healthcare specific domain. Use also generic data actually to learn more like, let's say, the AI domain. Use knowledge-based synthetic data to learn any gaps you have in the process.
Yeah.
And then I believe there's a chance to dramatically actually speed up AI development processes.
I see.
Now the question is, Don, with this wide, let's say, array of different AI vendors in radiology, a lot of them being small start and scale ups, will they be able to afford, right, foundation models and all the compute and cost around it? So this is something eventually where we now very likely within the next couple of years see really a consolidation of this market. But that's a different topic as well.
Interesting. Okay, couple other questions before we go. So one is on, I was interested in the patient perspective in radiology. Have patients kind of seen this in some way, or has it been kind of just in the reading room, so to speak? Has there been any kind of developments on that front? I mean, you mentioned things that might be coming around, reports and communication and that kind of thing, but I was just interested in that perspective.
Oh, I mean, you open a great point. There is huge potential, right, to improve the interaction between radiologist and the patient, right, leveraging generative AI, right? One thing I mentioned, right, I mean, my mother was in a hospital like a few weeks back, right, and she got her radiology report and read the word tumor, right, and for her not being in the domain, it meant something bad, but it was not something bad, right? It was a benign tumor. So no problem at all. But it's kind of frustrating for the patient because they don't understand. So translating it to layman terms is a great use case. But also, I mean, more like real-time interaction, right? Think about a chatbot, right? That a patient can use for, I don't know, radiology exam scheduling and kind of things, or interaction with the radiology department, right? There are plenty of use cases out there.
Yeah. Good. And then since radiology is a few years ahead, let's say, of kind of the rest of the departments, let's say, or the rest of healthcare, are there particular things that you think that the rest of healthcare can learn from our experience in radiology, deploying AI, whether it be, I don't know, governance or validation or risk management, or, I don't know, I just seem like, half of our audience here will be kind of outside of radiology, let's say, and would love to learn from, the forerunners here.
I think that's definitely possible, right? But right? Because the radiology domain, right, with the help of IT departments and other, let's say, groups within hospitals and healthcare settings, they have paved the way, right? They have done this already. Right, governance is one thing, how to implement it properly, how get users on board, and so on. So all this is there, learnings are there. But as usual in IT, right, we need to make sure, right, or health systems need to make sure they take this knowledge, this learning, and kind of leverage it next time and get better over time.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing, what eventually is also going to happen is that Gen AI, right, or AI in general, will bring those domains, right, closer together. For instance, there are debates about, right, would it make sense from a clinical medical point of view to bring closely together radiology and pathology?
Right. Sure.
Yeah. So and could become the radiologist, right? Could the role change over time into somebody who kind of analyzes medical imaging, right, as a whole, let's say, and then right, interacts with the results and kind of communicates it to the care team and the patient and so on.
Yeah, great. Okay, so so let's talk about next steps, I guess, for our audience. So if you were a department head or a CIO or a chief medical officer, CMIO, what are the things that you think I should be thinking about for 2024? Projects or roles or structures I need to put in place, or like how might you advise somebody to kind of plan the year on the AI front?
That's a great question. And look, let me start a little bit at the high level. First of all, right, I mean, Gen AI is really something new, right? I mean, I hope all the audience, you have used ChatGPT within the last 12 months. If not, get onto it. Learn, right? Learn about those solutions, not just the one I mentioned. There are more out there. Play around with them. Familiarize yourself with those technologies and figure out for yourself what those tools and technologies are capable of, right? What problems they could solve for you and your institution. And look, while mastering machine learning is or data science is not necessary, understanding the advantages and challenges inherent in AI technology is really vital. That's number one. And there are great programs out there for healthcare professionals, for instance, to learn the basics of AI. Programs such as you can just Google it, Hello AI. Actually, just like 3 days ago, Don, I posted another interesting scientific paper about opportunities and challenges of healthcare AI on LinkedIn, in case someone in the audience is interested. Great. The second point I wanted to mention here is that look, AI is really permeating all aspects of business, and the fact that like many decision makers have now had their own experiences with impressive AI results seem to pave the way for this really discussions about AI with the C-level in healthcare institutions. And thinking more about like the medical stuff, contradicting like earlier debates about AI replacing radiologists, one of the profession's most urgent problems remains the staff shortage, remains radiologist burnout, and solutions that focus on improving access to care, decreasing workloads, or let's say elevating job-related stress are likely to attract the attention of decision makers.
Right.
One more thing, or two more things, if I may. Look, integrating Gen AI in radiology, for instance, will shake up things. It will likely boost efficiency, but reshaping radiologists' roles will take time. Automation, as you know, raises concerns about like, I don't know, trainee skills, but also the potential for senior radiologists to focus on complex evaluations, adding more clinical value. And maybe also radiologists gain workflow efficiency from AI automation, but there's a risk of eventually over-reliance, and litigation, right, require careful full balance. And while the while the application areas for AI are widening, healthcare decision makers' expectations on return of investment are also raising. Yeah, so I mean, as the experience with AI matures, what we as an industry, what we as vendors have to do is we have to make sure we get to like concrete evidence of proven clinical or business value, because this is something that remains quite scarce right now.
Yeah. And
because look, only for
Do you think that's been a barrier to adoption, that the ROI is not as crisp as other technologies that are available to our decision makers?
And look, I mean, as of today, right, coming back to what I mentioned earlier, today we have those point solutions, right, narrow AI, for one specific tiny use case, detect lung nodules. I mean, this is great again, but I mean, in the bigger picture, right, it's hard to
makes sense,
find the right business case for this.
Makes sense.
So I think one thing is also important here, and then maybe I have a couple of closure thoughts as well, Don, if you want. But I think what is important right now is that we not just focus the conversation on technology, right? We need to not shift away, but we need to widen the conversation from really being technology focused to really thinking holistically, right? Or holistic understanding in the context of like users' workflows, right? Financial mechanisms, how enterprises procure. So it's by far not just technology. I mean, opportunities are great from a pure technology perspective, but there is more to it, right? To get it adopted by healthcare institutions.
Right. Yes, I've seen that. Okay, so why don't we wrap? Do you have some closing thoughts you want to leave with our
I mean, audience? Maybe two things here. Look, because I think it's really worth keeping in mind. Firstly, we have come far, right? When you think back the last couple of years, I mean, in the AI space, things are moving fast. And like capabilities that even a couple of years back would have seemed extraordinary are now routine. Think about right, things like ChatGPT. Language, right, was long like the grand challenge for AI. That's quickly changed. And secondly, technologies always take time to bed in. Despite all the speed of change in the tools themselves, workflows and processes don't just rearrange themselves. And also, and maybe that's my last point, right? Because we are still in a hype cycle in AI, and such a vicious hype cycle helps really no one in AI. But equally, we shouldn't miss the magnitude of what's happening here, right? I mean, zoom into the space, into specifics, and some of the details are overblown. But when you zoom out, you'll find that we are truly on the brink of significant change.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you look at the history of AI, it's decades old, but there was a breakthrough in imaging, 2012, something like that. You know, there was that breakthrough in imaging that really opened up that whole area, and we've seen that adoption and the stuff we've been talking about. And there's been a breakthrough in language that, you know, the last year or two now. And we're at the beginning of that next kind of wave of great solutions. But you're right, you know, workflow takes its time. You know, changing healthcare organizations takes its time, and we're a careful industry, I think, by design, from patient safety point of view and you know, accountability point of view. I think it's important to be thoughtful, but take advantage of these technologies like we are.
Yeah, but it's I mean, even if in healthcare things are usually slower in terms of technology adoption, right, or digital transformation, but the time is now to think about this, right? The time is now to think about and plan the future, right? Think about how to leverage those technologies, what use cases, what problems they could solve for you or in your institution. This is critical.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jan. This was fascinating, educational, all that good stuff. For our audience, there's a chat if you want to put questions in the chat. Hopefully, you have discovered that earlier in this session, but we're happy to answer any questions or any follow-up, and certainly follow Jan and myself. Jan has a lot of great content around AI and ML, and if you read all his content, you'll be sort of up to speed. I can account for that. But otherwise, thanks a lot, Jan, and have a good rest of the day, everyone. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.